it's incredibly gratifying. And I've had a lot of people come up to me and I've overheard people talk about it. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, things like, oh, wow, okay, well, he likes Miss 45. Well, I'll give that a shot. Wow, that's fantastic. Let me watch King of New York. I had a whole history with Abel Ferrara as far as following him since not his first movie, but his second movie, Miss 45, played at the theaters. And so one of all those exploitation movies that just blew your socks off was Miss 45. And it had the fantastic Kevin Thomas review in the LA Times, and you went and saw it, and it was just like, wow, this guy is fucking amazing. This guy could be like another Scorsese. That's what you're thinking about. That's what you're absolutely thinking. And there was two guys fighting for that new Scorsese title. There was him and James Toback. They're kind of out there doing their own thing. And so I'm following Abel now. Yeah, I saw it the day it was released. I'm sure I saw it that Friday because I was waiting for it because I read the Fangoria cover that had Ash with the chainsaw on it, and Stephen King. I have just seen the scariest movie of this decade or whatever because it had played at NeFed or something. That was the news about it. There would be, movies like The Dorm that Dripped Blood or something would get coverage in Fangoria, but they wouldn't go apeshit over it. This they went apeshit over. I think I'd read an interview with Raimi and Tappert before I even saw the movie. So I saw it the day it opened. Boom, and the doors fly off and everything. There was also something else about Evil Dead that made it also kind of particularly cool was, you had to get it. Not everyone could get it. It was cheap. You had to be able to not just look beyond that, you had to embrace that. And also, it is scary, but there is a really weird sense of humor that if you're not in line with it, you're going to think, oh, that's just a piece of junk.
Brian De Palma's Blowout. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's Brian De Palma's finest film. All right, which means it's one of the finest movies ever made because, as we all know, Brian De Palma is the greatest director of his generation. All right, John Travolta, by the way, gives one of the best performances of all time in this movie.
I've been widely known as saying that Blowout is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I used to talk about that back in the day endlessly.
Yeah. No, I love Blowout, and of the movie brats growing up, De Palma was my favorite. De Palma,
you were like his Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, no, I practically got into, and believe me, being a De Palma fan in the 80s wasn't that easy because there was a lot of people who hated him, and then they'd want to pick fights with you. I actually don't think that new Hollywood aesthetic was actually run out of movies until maybe 82 or 83. I think 81 still feels, with Blowout, Blowout still feels like new Hollywood.
Blowout by Brian De Palma with John Travolta.
Yeah, exactly. Nihilistic endings were the new happy ending.
Right, and they were commercial.
They were commercial because we had a very shitheel view of life at that time. And nihilistic endings actually confirmed our own cynical faith in how we felt America was. If I'm talking to somebody who's just seen Blowout and says, oh, wow, it's a real bummer that Sally died at the end. I go, well, you're a fucking idiot if you don't get it. All right.
I remember I met Brian De Palma. It was a dream meeting because he was always my favorite of the movie brands. He was a real, true hero. And he said, because he remembers he was doing Blowout and he was really great about it. I think this is my best work. This is the one. And I actually agree, that is his best work. All right, but he was like, this is the one. And then he goes to the theater to see Raging Bull. He's like, fuck. There's always Scorsese.
I was enamored with Richard Franklin. He was my favorite of all the Australian directors. He was the Australian Hitchcock. And I had seen his film Road Games. I even saw one of his sex films. And Road Games, to this day, is my favorite Australian film. Not just horror film, my favorite Australian film. And Brian De Palma had really created a genre unto himself of these Hitchcock-like thrillers. And Road Games was the best non-De Palma Hitchcock-like thrillers in the 80s. And there was a lot of Hitchcock-like thrillers. And I met Richard Franklin.
I interviewed Richard Franklin, who I was a big fan of. He did the Australian Hitchcock. I was a huge fan of Road Games.
Great
and movie. I interviewed him on this, not on the set. I interviewed, he had just shot the movie. I interviewed him in his office at Universal right after he had done
Cloak and Dagger,
and I had seen Road Games, and I loved Road Games.
But in the case of Road Games, I even though he was an American, I think Everett de Roche is the best of the Australian film screenwriters. He is your Cornell Woolrich. He was your Elmore Leonard. He was your Hitchcock to some degree or another, even more than maybe, say, Richard Franklin, who I love and adore. He wrote some really, really terrific scripts, and I actually think Road Games is hands down his best script. I think you could remake it tomorrow, and there's actually no reason to remake it, but except for the fact that that script is so good. So don't change the script. Don't have somebody rewrite it. Just use that script and put Russell Crowe in the quid role. That would be really terrific. But also I'm a huge fan of Richard Franklin, and I think that's him at his Hitchcockian best. I think that's a truly magnificent thriller. Well, Michael Mann actually affected a lot of directors. I mean, everyone heard about after the fact that he just kept a water truck on his set all the time, just to constantly wet down streets. Yeah. And then all of a sudden that became the thing for directors to do. Thief looks fantastic. Let's get a water truck and let's just wet down these night streets and throw lights on them. And like when you're saying it affected your work, I mean, there's lines in Thief that affected my life.
I am the last guy in the world that you want to fuck with.
Insofar as I have always lived my life trying to be like James Caan, insofar as I am Joe Boss of my own life. I am Joe Boss, and I am Joe Boss of my own life.
You don't want to work for me? What's wrong with you?
Hey, you goof, look at the wall.
Okay, you literally are saying the worst part about Thief, all right? Yeah, okay, there's only difference, though, is I would enjoy that postcard. The only reason the character has that postcard is to just is to say, fuck it, and throw it away. Here's all the life's good things. Okay, now fuck that, I'm gonna kill everybody.
Well, that's just it.
This is not for me. Well, I wouldn't put it quite like that. Before we get too lost into the Thief, I would put it more about the idea that he was untouchable because he was untouchable. Yeah. The minute that he fell in love, the minute he had something they could take from him, the minute they could put the bite on him, he had to get rid of the kid. He was the man. Absolutely, he was the man.
Well, what about the psychics blowing things up? I mean, Scanners is just the single greatest head explosions in movies. Scanners.
Well, Scanners does it great. The bald guy whose head explodes, yeah. As soon as you brought it up, all right, and I realized, because I've actually, he's absolutely the most convincing New Yorker of all the Canadians. All right. All right. He could have his own show called The Super or something like that.
I would watch that.
And I would watch that show. And then you said that, and it just so happens that I'll never forget that bald guy's face in Scanners for as long as I live.
Yeah.
All right. That guy, he sells the idea of Scanners better than Cronenberg does.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
Right.
Well, once him and Patrick McGowan and Michael Ironside leave for an interminable amount of time and it just becomes Stephen Lack, you're like, what the fuck am I watching? But De Palma had already done it in The Fury. So, yeah, it's great. I mean, well, Scanners is just like The Fury Part 2. Well, Scanners does the same thing, too. The best part of Scanners is that whole opening 20 minutes where all the agents are out there trying to kill each other.
For me, Scanners, those effects, when I was a kid and I saw it, I'd never seen the way the veins went up Michael Ironside's face.
That's fantastic. But, I mean, you had seen The Fury by the time you saw Scanners, though, right?
I think I was too young. I saw The Fury after. That's why.
Okay. So,
but yeah, it was the Cronenberg body horror stuff. Yeah, so I saw them out of order.
Okay, so you saw them out. Yeah, okay. So if you've seen The Fury, when you see Scanners, it's like, well, it's good. It's not John Cassavetes being blown up from head to toe in slow motion good.
It's more like The Fury.
1981, you didn't forget The Fury from 78. Today, yeah.
I think they're more familiar with Scanners.
Oh, I think they are. Well, Scanners is ultimately, I think, the better film. If it wasn't for Stephen Lack.
Stephen is lacking. I just want to remake the movie without Stephen Lack.
But the weird part about Stephen Lack, though, is the movie that got Stephen Lack, Scanners, should be watched. It's a really interesting Canadian film by Alan Moyle, the guy who did Times Square, and it's called The Rubber Gun. And he's amazing in it. You can see why he got cast after The Rubber Gun, because he's terrific in The Rubber Gun, and The Rubber Gun's a really good movie. And then you see him in Scanners, and you're like, what the fuck is this guy? Now, you go out and watch The Rubber Gun, you will not believe that, one of the worst lead performances of all time was given by this guy? He's terrific.
They shot a movie once in my hometown. Everybody was in it for miles around. Out at the speedway, Elvis there. Well, I can't catch her, but I can get behind anything.
Not so much in this disturbing aspect, but as far as an audience reaction that I thought was extremely unique. And again, it was when I was a young man, I saw it, and my reaction to it blew me away so much. I saw the film 3 other times at the theater, well, no, 2 other times during its initial run, to see if the audience would respond the same way. And they responded the same way every time. And then I didn't watch the film with an audience again until I screened it at the Alamo Draft House 25 years later. And they reacted the exact same way again, 25 years later. Is the, it's not really a slasher film, but the horror film Hell Night with Linda Blair. Okay, so in that movie, it's the whole idea is these kids are trying to get into a fraternity sorority during Halloween night. They're all dressed up in costumes. Have to spend the night in this rumored haunted house in the neighborhood. And it's a really well done movie, directed by Tom DeSimone, who started out directing gay porno films. And it's got a good cast, Linda Blair, Peter Barton. Almost everything about the movie actually works really, really well. I really like Kevin Brophy's story of the fucked up family in it. It's got a really good monologue. But the moment that got a response from the audience that, to me, is unique to this day. I've never seen this happen before. Earlier in the film, Peter Barton and Linda Blair are talking to each other and they're getting to know each other. And Peter Barton's a rich kid. And Linda Blair is from the poor side of town. And she's describing, my dad was a mechanic and, he owns a garage. And so I was taught to be a mechanic. He taught me how to fix cars. And so, when she worked at some version of Tune-Up Masters, fixing, in a muffler shop or something. So she put herself through school by making money as a mechanic. And it's just a little backstory, and it makes sense. So she's a girl from the poor side of town. She had to work her way through this college situation that she's in. Peter Barton didn't. Okay, now it's the end of the movie, and the crazy, wild, inbred killer is after her. And she finally gets out of the house, and he's lumbering after her. And then there's a car that Vincent Van Patten had been driving is abandoned, and it's right there. And she gets in the car. She's going to drive it through the gate. And she gets in the car, and naturally, it's a horror film. At the end of the film, naturally, it doesn't start. She's like, and the killer's getting closer and closer and closer and closer. Then all of a sudden, she gets out of the car and she pops the hood. And she starts fucking with things. And there's this huh? Thought in the audience. And then literally everybody, not every single person in the theater, but at least 3 people in every single screening at the exact same time at different parts of the theater say, "She's a mechanic!" That was such a fun moment of audience interaction. And I thought it was a great storytelling thing and a great payoff. I saw it twice more during its theatrical run to see if that would happen. And it happened in every screening. And then 25 years later, watching it at the Alamo Drafthouse, it happened again.
Our last movie, Happy Birthday to Me, and in honor of my birthday, that was yesterday. We've just had some ice cream cake and some other chocolate kind of cake, right? That all had on it, Happy Birthday to Me. And we're all vibrating from, basically, we just took a bunch of reds. Quit messing around, man! Literally feel the need to smoke a blunt, all right, to counteract the birthday cake. All right? So now our fourth film that I feel fits into the Giallo mode is one of my favorite directors, J. Lee Thompson, is his Canadian-made film Happy Birthday to Me, starring Melissa Sue Anderson, Glenn Ford, Lawrence Dane, and a whole bunch of other people. Now, when the film came out during the time of the slasher films, and it was set up to be a slasher, and it is. It still qualifies completely as a slasher. But slashers and giallos are not the same, and the fact that this movie manages to completely walk the line between both of them actually is an achievement, I think. It's a movie playing with a zillion amount of red herrings, so it's your job to deduce who amongst this list of suspects is the killer. Then the film seemingly tells you who the killer is about midway through, and you're not prepared for the answer. And then it starts going on a whole other track than it's been going, only like a giallo to jump the track a third time. It's entertaining. It's entertaining as hell. No, I don't buy it. Oh, that's fucking bullshit. No, you don't say that. No, it actually makes the movie. Yeah, the whole film qualifies as a giallo, but could also be called a slasher simultaneously. But the fact that the past trauma backstory is so ridiculously crazy, that's what officially puts it in the term of a giallo. And we've already had nothing but batshit crazy explanations of why the killer has killed on this quadruple feature that we had. This is still the craziest one. It's the movie. Yeah, it is literally, it has fun with it. Which again is the thing that makes it not a faux giallo, but an actual giallo. No, it's black leather gloves.
Black leather gloves? Check.
Even though every character in the movie wears black leather gloves. No, they're trying to make it feel American.
And also,
right? A Canadian movie goes out of its way to make movies feel American. That's my boy, Jay Lee. Well, look, he made a mark for himself, like doing thrillers. One of the things that makes J. Lee Thompson an auteur is he's one of cinema's lovable degenerates.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The fact that he finds really questionable relationships and really questionable sexuality, and the fact that he seems to be turned on by him and then presents them in a way that's not condemnation against them, is actually accepting of them, is an auteur trait that follows from movie to movie to movie to movie. If she's turning 18, it's obviously a high school, but it's like an academy that runs like a college. Because to me, the kids just absolutely remind me of the kids from St. Elmo's Fire. Even in that tavern that they hang out with might as well be the St. Elmo's Fire tavern. But it's and the cars that they drive and the scarves that they wear. It's a really enjoyable collection of these type of horror movie cliches that done in just the right spirit with a very energetic cast in a quick, entertaining way that just keeps it up. It keeps the juggling balls flowing. No, she's really, really good at it. She did actually a really fun TV movie around the same time. I don't know. I think it was just before maybe she did Happy Birthday to Me or just afterwards. A juvenile delinquent movie where she's like a young girl that's brought into a juvenile delinquent gang that's causing problems, directed by Jack Starrett, called The Survival of Dana. I had forgot about that sequence, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking disturbing when the brain starts growing out of the hole in the skull. Well, also, I would also say that there is a symbiotic connection to the whole last sequence and the whole reveal to Happy Birthday to Me to the very first Scream.
Oh, yeah.
The storyline of the very first Scream follows kind of closely the backstory line of Happy Birthday to Me.
Yeah, it does.
You know, even to the point of where they have that the father is like kind of tied up and been hidden through most of the movie. And they pretty much describe it in the same cockamamie way that the killer describes it in this. Well, actually, frankly, when the killer explains how it happened, you can go back and, no, it's all happening because the killer indoctrinated her into the group. When you go backwards and think about it. Now, okay, but right up there in Jallo Land with the ridiculousness of the reveal of the killer and then the crazy story that is backed up by why they're doing all these murders is, again, straight out of an Italian movie. The hysterical past traumatic incident that put Melissa Sue Anderson in the hospital involving her mother. Mm-hmm. That whole scene is one of the best things that we saw. All right. It's so over the top. It seems like a weird, bad dubbing of one of those Italian crazy sequences. And if Melissa Sue Anderson was actually the killer, that's a pretty good triggering reason for her to go on this.
Hell yeah.
Especially if she doesn't know what she's doing, if she's schizophrenic. The whole thing that happens at the beginning.
Oh my God.
That's actually a better motivation than most of these other killers have. Yeah. And by the way, that backseat murder has a lot of really good sexual terror in it. There's a whole, there's a lot of kicking legs. Or he was ripping up the ceiling of the car. The fabric of the ceiling of the car. And by the way, I'm a big fan of that actress. She's kind of a Canadian scream queen. That's Leslie Donaldson, who is the star of William Fruit's Funeral Home, which I'm a big fan of. But she's also in Curtains and a couple of other ones as well. Well, she's smart until she gets 5 feet and stops and starts looking around.
Then you're like,
and then gets another idiot. 5 feet and stops and starts looking around. We're just waiting for the shish kebab to show up. We couldn't help but mention it, okay? Oh, let's have some peppery beef and then make out. One of my favorite cliches in movies when they don't show who the killer is, just their lower torso and their shoes walking in there and that they're coming in as the killer and they're like, oh, wow, it's you. Great to see you. Hey, what's with that knife? And then at the top of the batshit crazy things is the mask technology that would put Mission Impossible to shame. But I kind of loved it. I really did. Well, that whole sequence actually does work. That whole birthday party does work. But then you have the whole thing at the beginning when the kids are playing chicken with the rising bridge and everything. And that's really exciting. The one guy with the girls that don't want to go on the jump does the jump. You go, okay. Everything Glenn Ford says is a fucking red flag to this idea. My favorite relationship between a psychiatrist and his patient in the history of cinema is Melissa Sue Anderson and her doctor, Dave. Yeah, okay, not Dr. Bennings or whatever. No, it's just Dave. Well, you don't even need to be in Jay Leland to all of a sudden. I think even when the day the movie was released, I think people were like, what's kind of up between those two? He's not this older man, fatherly authority figure. They're trying to make Glenn Ford look as handsome as Glenn Ford can look at this age. There is a sexy quality to Glenn Ford with his cool white shirts, his Italian cool white shirts with his cool black sweater on and everything. Oh, what did I call it? Happy herring to me?
It's herring jam. So it's
herring in the Henderson.
Yeah.
Just smoke a blunt. Just smoke a blunt. All right. Just smoke a blunt. Just smoke a blunt. All right. A Mexican/American/international production, but basically made out of Mexico. A horror film called Demonoid. Directed by Alfredo Zachariah, who, like Rene Cardona Jr., has directed a whole lot of Mexican horror films and exploitation movies that have actually made their way to these shores. And he also directed a Swarm ripoff called The Bees. Yeah. He directed an interesting Mexican Western that got released in America called The Bandits with Robert Conrad and Jan Michael Vincent. I saw Demonoid when it came out theatrically at the Tower Theater in downtown Los Angeles. And I had a blast then, but I like it even more now, frankly, to say. I think I took it a little for granted back then. There's stuff like this playing all the time back then. It was easy to take it for granted. Now I look at something like this and I really, really really appreciate it. I realized I was jaded back then. I am not jaded anymore.
Yeah.
I have been waiting for the third exploitation movie to beat all the other ones, and this is the show it happened. Demonoid just doesn't stop. It doesn't fucking stop. It doesn't waste a minute. It doesn't waste a frame. Yep. It doesn't waste a scene. And it's not even though it's got a standard story of it's kind of they put them together. It's a crawling hand movie and a demon possession movie, and they kind of put them together, and that follows the structure. And just okay, well, I guess it's just going to be a crawling hand movie. Okay, I got that. But then in the middle, then they don't change the mythology. The mythology gets deeper, and then all of a sudden, now the second half of the movie has it's not a different story, but it's a more complex story. Yeah. And by the way, after watching stuff like The Keep and all and The Relic and all the stuff we've watched, to watch a movie with a supernatural reason for why all this is happening and with a mythology built around it, that one, it answers all of our questions. Yeah. We are not asking any dumb questions about what's going on. And once they explain it to it, they live up to it all the way, and you can follow it from the beginning to the end. That kind of clarity after the stuff we've watched is a blessing. The film is sick as fuck. It is nasty. It's dirty. It's got a dirty mind. When I say that, I mean it as a positive. I know. It's gruesome. It's got a sense of grotesque. It's got a sense of the perverse. Yeah. But the most important thing about it is there's no comedy in it. I mean, there's a little bit of unintentional comedy, but there's no real comedy in it. And that's one of the things that I really like about most Mexican horror films in general. As Jim Shelton says, the Mexicans take their tacky horror seriously. Yeah. I mean, no, and the seriousness of the intention of all the actors, the seriousness of the intention of the director and the scenario was a breath of fresh air. Yeah. And again, it's moving. And then you add on top of that, Samantha Eggar, who is a fantastic actress. And this was during the time that she was doing a lot of exploitation movies, and she's I've never seen her give a bad performance in an exploitation movie. It can't be emphasized enough how she classes up the production. And it's also just gratifying that she's taking the movie so seriously. Well, she makes you take the movie seriously. Now, I like Stuart Whitman, but I remember him thinking that he was just kind of a worn out performance for him. So I remember I even said that when he came on. Uh-huh. I was wrong. He's actually quite good in the movie. Oh, by the way, we have to mention for a second, the guy playing her husband is a character actor you've all seen. If you watch action movies from the 70s, he's in all the Eastwood movies. He's in all the Bronson movies. You know, he's that schlumpy detective in Chinatown that Jack Nicholson beats the shit out of. Yeah. He's like, his name is Roy Jensen. Here he's billed as Roy Cameron Jensen. All right. But the thing is, I actually think Roy Jensen and Samantha Eggar made a really cool couple. I like them. No, he gets like 27 snake eyes in a row. Yeah. He just goes to Vegas. They don't talk about all the people he murdered when he was in Mexico. No. Yeah, he's like, and it actually doesn't break up. He just kills all the miners and leaves, all right? It's not like they had a marital spat. No. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say he's so masculine, I bought it. Well, he is. There's a masculine quality about it. He's like, and that kind of masculinity can get a Samantha Eggar. He's like, especially if you own a fucking silver mine. Yeah, okay, but that's the thing about the movie was the fact is I'm watching it with Roger, and then he's like, "Oh, I lived in Guanajuato," all right, and then it's like, "Oh, apparently this was in Roger's hometown," and he's like, "Oh yeah, well naturally." Then they go to the museum where they have the Guanajuato mummies. Well, yeah, naturally, of course, the Guanajuato mummies. Right? Everybody knows about the Guanajuato mummies. That's the Roger growing up double feature. Emerald Forest and Demonoid. Also, I have to say, the film has very well done both special effects and gore effects. They don't have a ton of money to pull them off, but they pull them off. I will actually go so far as to say I think this is the best crawling hand I've ever seen in any movie. Everything we're saying is pointing out how clever this movie is. And not only that, one, they're pulling off the crawling hand stuff really terrific. But it's not just that they've come up with just magnificent makeup effects. Some of it is just actually directorial cleverness, the way he shot it. He figured out the exact angle to sell the gag.
Yeah.
And that's directing, man. That's what directing is all about, especially when it comes to horror films, especially when it comes to dealing with fantasy. No, if you look up him, you look up Rene Cardona Jr., you're going to see 80 movies. But I want to see a few more of the ones that actually got released in America. And I think there's about there's at least 4 or something. All right. So it starts off obviously a long time ago. And so this woman, you don't quite know she's a woman at first. She's in like these monk robes and she's being chased by these guys and she's got a sword, and becomes very clear that she's got superhuman strength and she's fucking these guys up. And then a bunch of them get on top of her and they pin her against the wall. And as they pin her against the wall, the monk robe opens up and her boobs fall out. And it's just like it's a great boob shot. I mean, it's just a terrific boob shot. Yeah. And then they hold her against the cave wall and they cut her fucking hand off. They cut her fucking hand off. Then they take a knife and they stab the hand. And then they
before it can climb away.
Yeah. And they stab it before it can climb away. And then they put it in this little hand coffin. And that little hand coffin is the best prop of this entire episode.
Yeah, we actually were saying,
if I could own one prop, all right, for my cinema museum, it would be the demon coffin. It would be the demonoid hand coffin. Yeah. Now, we haven't really described the plot, and media did a very bad job of describing the plot. But I think at this point, we've expressed our enthusiasm enough that if you're still there and we haven't explained the plot, then just watch it. All right. But one of the things that was surprising about the movie, one, it starts off in Mexico. And like you said, not just Mexico, but where's the place again?
Guanajuato.
Okay. Then one of the lead characters goes to Vegas, the Sands Hotel in particular. So now a whole section is happening in Vegas. And then all of a sudden, suddenly we're in Inglewood, California. And then the rest of the movie takes place in Inglewood. Yeah. This movie is fantastic. Guanajuato? The Sands Hotel in 1979? Yeah. And Inglewood? I mean, I'm surprised they didn't go to the fucking Forum. Yeah. Yeah, well, we're not going to describe the plot. There's a little bit that's vaguely similar to, to The Hidden or something, about the way things just keep like moving from character to character. But it has its own mythology going on that I don't want to spoil. Well, actually, the original name of the movie was The Devil's Hand. Well, they keep calling it The Devil's Hand throughout the whole thing. You can tell that was supposed to be the title. How great is that moment? But one of the best lines is when the black cop has been possessed by the hand and he wants to cut it off. And he goes to the doctor and he points a gun at the doctor. You cut this fucking thing off. So the guy starts setting up some anesthesia. He goes, no needles, no anesthesia, just cut. And you're like, and I'm like, oh my God. No, she's just in the hospital. She's just in the doctor's just going, yeah, just look at the pieces of wood. It's exploded from the inside. Yeah, right? She's like, people didn't break into this. Something broke out. Well, I will admit, she's figuring out everything. She's figuring out the whole, what the hand's motivation is. She's figuring out a simple look at the grave. I mean, she should have her own detective show. She kills it. It's probably only like 4 movies after she did The Brood or something. Yeah, I think the last film she had released theatrically by this point was The Exterminator. I like this one better than The Exterminator. I've seen The Exterminator recently. This delivers more than Exterminator does. Oh, that's one of the things I wanted to add. When we were watching the movie, at a certain point, in the last 30 minutes, right alongside Samantha Eggar, right alongside Stuart Whitman, the hand is a character. I like the hand. Yeah, I like the hand. It's a character. And it even kind of starts coming across as a character at a certain. It actually has a touch of a personality. Yeah, that's like a fucking rap. Sure. And again, they're not explaining it to us. We're just kind of figuring out the mythology of it. Oh, okay. After it does this, it does that. Yeah. Well, okay. I'll add to that though. Okay, not that I have any inside information, but the situation is, for the Mexican film industry, this probably was an expensive movie. One of the things that you'll notice when you see like, especially like Mexican movies or Spanish movies or German movies, they're just released as an exploitation movie out here. If you actually look up Mexico or Spain that year, those actually might have been one of the bigger movies that they made at that during that time. But my point being, though, is for a film made for the Mexican film industry, this probably actually had a couple of pesos. Well, if it has a little bit of money, that means they're probably working with the best technicians in Mexico at that point. Yeah. Well, I think Oliver Stone's The Hand came out like the year before. Right. And, and that's a big budget version of something like that. I mean, but before there was like The Crawling Hand, The Beast with Five Fingers. Sure. It's actually a subgenre unto itself. Yeah. I would say pound for pound, it's the best movie we've talked about. You know what I mean by that? For its fighting weight. I'm not putting it down. I just mean, in its weight class, it can be beat. Frankly, it's one of the only movies we've watched on this thing that I don't have a problem with the third act, or I don't have a problem with the second. I don't have a problem at all. Well, the ending doesn't seem cheap in this movie because this movie has had a nasty spirit all the way along.
Exactly.
Evil will always win in this movie.
Exactly.